Saturday Night Live has always had a reputation for turning real life scandals into comedy gold, and once again, the show lived up to its legacy. Bowen, one of the show's most popular cast members, made a big comeback this weekend as he reprised his role as George Santos, the controversial former congressman whose early prison release recently made headlines. The episode became an instant topic of conversation online as viewers reacted to Yang's hilariously exaggerated version of Santos, a man who has been surrounded by controversy both inside and outside of politics. When the news broke that George Santos was getting out of prison earlier than expected, fans of SNL immediately started buzzing online. Many wondered whether Bowen would return to his fan-favorite impersonation that had once gone viral for its accuracy and absurd humor. However, their hopes were briefly dashed when it was reported that Yang had been in Los Angeles during the week of Santos' release, making it impossible for him to appear on that particular episode. But this week, Yang surprised everyone by walking onto the Weekend Update set in full George Santos mode, looking confident, smug, and ready to steal the spotlight again. As the sketch began, Santos confidently strutted onto the Weekend Update desk, announcing that he had just been released from prison. His version of Santos was larger than life, full of dramatic gestures, ridiculous claims, and a perfect mix of charm and chaos. Within seconds, he started bragging about things that clearly weren't true, including winning a marathon that hadn't even happened yet and stealing a priceless piece of jewelry from the Louvre. According to his ridiculous story, he wasn't actually stealing it, but simply reclaiming what was originally his. It was vintage SNL satire, bold, over the top, and meant to poke fun at the real Santos' documented habit of making outrageous claims about his life. Michael Chi and Colin Jost, who host the Weekend Update segment, tried to keep straight faces, but it was impossible, as Yang's Santos spun more bizarre lies, such as making celebrity friends while in prison, including Sean Diddy Combs. Jost repeatedly called out his fabrications. Despite his efforts to keep the segment moving, Jost could barely contain his laughter, breaking character several times as the audience howled in amusement. The chemistry between the trio made the scene even funnier, especially since Yang's unfiltered portrayal of Santos was so committed that it almost felt like a real press conference from the scandal-prone politician. The SNL Twitter account, now X, quickly shared the clip from the episode, captioned, "George Santos stops by the desk." Within minutes, the video began circulating widely across social media, earning millions of views and sparking intense debates among viewers. Some fans couldn't stop praising Bowen for his comedic timing and his fearless approach to the role. They loved how he took Santos' eccentric personality and exaggerated it to the point of absurdity, turning a controversial figure into a moment of collective laughter. Many even commented that Yang's performance was the highlight of the entire episode. But not everyone was laughing. As with many SNL sketches in recent years, the reaction online was deeply divided. While many fans thought it was hilarious and sharp political comedy, Others found it cringeworthy or politically biased. On X, several users slammed the show for being painfully unfunny, with some calling the current cast a group of woke millennials who were more focused on political statements than humor. These critics argued that SNL had lost the edge it once had, claiming that its sketches now rely too heavily on mocking political figures rather than crafting clever or original comedy. Despite the backlash, there's no denying that the sketch got people talking, which is exactly what SNL has always done best. Bowen Yang's return as George Santos was clearly designed to make headlines, and it succeeded. His exaggerated take on Santos' lies and scandals reminded audiences why satire remains such a powerful form of comedy, even when it divides opinion. Whether people found it funny or frustrating, they were all talking about it the next morning. Yang's portrayal of George Santos has become one of his most iconic SNL characters. His earlier appearances as the disgraced congressman had already made waves when Santos' scandals were at their peak. Back then, Yang had brilliantly mimicked Santos' confident, yet clueless attitude, poking fun at his exaggerated stories about his career, his finances, and even his identity. This week's sketch was a natural continuation, the sequel nobody asked for but everyone expected. With Santos now freshly out of prison, Yang's version turned him into a self-proclaimed hero, painting a comedic picture of a man who refuses to see reality for what it is. During the same Weekend Update segment, the show didn't shy away from addressing other major political topics of the week. She cracked a few jokes about the government's SNAP benefits cutoff, which he had already mentioned on Instagram hours before the show aired. Jost, meanwhile, poked fun at President Donald Trump's recent visit to Japan, along with some lighthearted jabs about the ongoing White House renovations. These moments helped balance out the segment, giving viewers a mix of humor that touched on various news stories without becoming too one-sided. Still, it was clear that Bowen Yang's George Santos stole the show. Even casual SNL viewers who hadn't watched in weeks tuned in to catch the sketch online afterward. Within hours of airing, the clip became one of the top trending comedy videos on social media. Fans flooded the comments praising Yang's ability to perfectly capture Santos' blend of charm, chaos, and delusion. One user wrote, "Bowen Yang deserves an Emmy just for this impression," while another commented, "This is the kind of SNL energy we've been missing." The controversy, however, only made the moment bigger. Every time SNL touches politics, it sparks a wave of discussion that goes far beyond comedy. For decades, the show has walked a fine line between humor and political commentary. From Chevy Chasey's take on Gerald Ford in the 1970s to Tina Fey's iconic Sarah Palin impression in 2008. Bowen Yang's George Santos is simply the latest in a long line of political parodies that blur the line between entertainment and commentary. And much like the others, it's impossible to separate the latter from the larger message behind it. What makes Yang's portrayal so effective is his ability to take Santos' real-life absurdities and amplify them until they feel like something out of a cartoon. His delivery is full of confidence and mischief, but underneath the comedy, there's a subtle jab at how bizarre real world politics can get, even when he's joking about stealing from the Louvre or befriending Diddy in prison. The humor lands because it feels only slightly more exaggerated than the real George Santos antics. For many longtime fans, SNL's return to this kind of pointed political satire feels refreshing. Over the years, the show has faced criticism for being inconsistent, especially when it comes to tackling current events. But sketches like this remind people that at its best, SNL can turn the chaos of real life into sharp, memorable comedy that gets everyone talking. And, with Bowen leading the charge, it's no surprise that the show still manages to find fresh angles in familiar stories. As debates continue online, one thing is clear: Bowen George Santos sketch won't be forgotten anytime soon. Love it or hate it, it captured the week's biggest headline and turned it into one of SNL's most talked about moments of the season. Whether it's seen as a brilliant roast or an unnecessary jab, it's proof that the show still knows how to make noise in today's fast-moving news cycle. Saturday Night Live continues to air new episodes every Saturday at 11:30 p.m. ET and 8:30 p.m. PT on NBC, keeping its legacy alive as the go-to destination for political comedy, celebrity impressions, and unpredictable live television moments. And if this week's buzz is any indication, Bowen George Santos might just make another return sooner than we think, especially if the real Santos keeps finding his way into the headlines.